بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Now we're moving on to the next lesson, and in here we're discussing تعريف طريق المراد بالنصوص. How do we understand the objective of the nas? So basically we done the 20 categorization. We had am, we had khas, we had mushraq, we had mu'awwal, then we had haqiqa and majaz, then we had all of those. So all of those rules that we had, using all of those, what are some overriding rules via which we are able to understand the objective of the text? How do we read the text? So we got 3 rules here, and then some incorrect ways of understanding text. So he says here, اعلم أن لمعرفة المراد بالنصوص طرقا. There are certain ways of understanding the intended goal of the text. How do we understand this text? Some of them, one rule is, minha, the first rule is, there are many rules, but there's some rules. One rule is أن اللفظ إذا كان حقيقة لمعنى ومجازا لآخر. There is a word, it has 2 meanings, a حقيقة and a majaz. Then, what's the rule? الحقيقة أولى من المجاز. الحقيقة أولى من المجاز. That's the rule. حقيقة is preferable over majaz. To take the majaz, we have to have a rule. Example. What the ulama say? If you have al-bin, a daughter, makhluqatun min al-ma'i zina. She's your daughter not because via marriage but via zina. You committed zina and then she becomes your daughter. Well, she's your daughter. So what happens to her? What's the ruling? So what does Allah say in the Quran? حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُمْ وَخَالَاتُكُمْ إِلَى آخِرِهِ. So your mother, your daughters, your sisters, your aunties and your khalas are all impermissible for you. So if you look at it here, the word banat, what does that mean? As a feminine. So we say the word banat is haqiqah. In what? Anybody who is born from your sperm. That's a bint. Whether that intercourse took place in nikah, in wedlock, or out of wedlock. That's a haqiqi meaning. And the other majazi meaning is the daughter from nikah. Who is it? The daughter from nikah. That's not a majazi, that's because you did takhsis of one part. So bint haqiqatan is anybody born from your intercourse, when you don't intercourse with that person. And then from that woman can give birth to a daughter. So therefore, if you have a child from zina, she's also haram upon you. That's haqiqi meaning. Haqiqi encompasses both of them. So based on what we say here, يَحْرُمُ عَلَى الزَّانِ نِكَاحُهَا. It is impermissible upon the zani to do nikah with her. وَقَالَ الشَّافِعِي يَحِلْ. I'm not sure if that's a muftabi of the Shawafi, but that's what he says in Usool al-Shashi. Yes? وَالصَّحِيحُ مَا قُلْنَا. And the correct opinion is what we have said. Why? لِأَنَّهَا بِنْتُهُ حَقِيقَةً. Yes, حَقِيقَةً. She is your daughter. Because she was born, you had intercourse with a lady, from there you have out of wedlock, there is zina, so now, child is born. فَتَدْخُلُ تَحْتَ قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. It enters under the verse, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ. The haqiqah of bana is any child born of your ma. Okay? To say, well, it's only the daughter from nikah, that's majaz meaning. You say majaz is also takhsis. Like only one part of, but whatever way, that's what we say here. Do you understand the rule? Acha. وَيَتَفَرَّعُ مِنْهُ. Then he's saying, because of this, عَلَى الْمَذْهَبَيْن, because of our ikhtilaf, can you have intercourse with her? We say no. Imam Shafi says yes, after nikah. It's mahar. If you do nikah, it's basically carry on. Wujub al-mahar, we say you have to give mahar. We say no mahar, because no nikah is, remember we said hurima alaykum is basically la tankihu, becomes what? Nahi, not nafi. It's nafi, sorry, not nahi. Remember that? We did that before? And these nikahs are null and void. They don't even come about, not mashru' at all. So there's no mahar, there's no nafaqah, there's no mirath. You can't stop her from leaving the house. Like, meaning she's not under your, when you get married to her, she's not to follow your rules. Wal buruz, to leave the house, etc. That's none of this will come into place. According to Imam Shafi, the rules of a wife will come into place. Do you understand? Acha. Second rule to understanding the nas. Minha anna ahad al-mahmalayn. If a verse have 2 possible meanings, what does the verse have? 2 possible meanings. إذا أوجب تخصيص في النص دون الآخر. If one of these possible meanings necessitates and causes takhsis, and the other meaning leaves it am, it's better to take the meaning which does not bring about takhsis. فَالْحَمْلُ عَلَى مَا لَا يَسْتَلْزِمُ التَّخْصِيص أَوْلَى. To interpret the verse or to take the verse to have that meaning which does not cause takhsis is better. Example, أو لامستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا. So we have here لامس يلامس ملامسة. Now the word لامس, again, what do we say here? The word mulamasa means to touch. Now does it mean to touch, mean to have zina? Let's say it means to touch by hand. So we say one meaning of mulamasa can mean to touch by hand, touch somebody with the hand. Yes? And the other meaning is intercourse. Now look, two possibilities. What we're saying is, if we take the word mulamasa to touch by hand, yes, if you touch somebody with your hand, you touch, if a man touches the female with his hand, yes, meaning, then what happens? In this situation, we will have to say, this is not because why? They also, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, and those who have this opinion, if you touch a mahram, you touch your mother, your sister, you shake your mother's hand, you kiss your mother, you kiss your sister, yes? Or you press their feet, you shake their hands. Does wuzu break according to them? No. You got a baby girl, you lift that baby girl up, does wuzu break? No. Yes? So, what do they say? That it must be liyad, but not in these circumstances. So this meaning necessitates what? Takhsis. And we say it means jima, and is any money from jima? If you do jima, what happens? Is anybody exempt from this? Anytime you do jima, your ghusl is broken. Are you following me? So the word la mastumun nisa has two possibilities. One is, it means here mastum bil yad, one means here jima. If it is mastum bil yad, it does not apply across the board. There are a few exceptions from this. It becomes makhsus, khussa anhu, it becomes what? Khussa anhul ba'd. Correct? It becomes what? Khussa anhul ba'd. And if you take the meaning jima, it remains am. So what's the better meaning to take? The am meaning. That's the second rule that we've done regarding معرفة طرق, understand the nas. So we say here, فَالْمُلَامَسَةُ لَوْ حُمِلَتْ عَلَى الْوِقَاءِ. If we interpret the meaning of mulamasa to mean wiqa, jima, كان النص معمولا به في جميع صور وجوده. The nas will be able to be applied, معمولا به, will be applied in all its forms. Whichever woman you zina, whichever woman you have intercourse with, your ghusl breaks. وَلَوْ حُمِلَ عَلَى الْمَسِّ بِالْيَدِ. If it is taken to mean just touch with your hand, the nas is going to be specific to a few suwar, not other suwar. For example, maharim, tifla saghira, jiddan. If you touch a mahram or you touch a very, very young girl, then غَيْرُ نَاقِذٍ لِلْوُضُوءِ, it's not going to break the wudu. في أصح قول الشافعي. Imam Shafi has got two opinions. In the more correct opinion, it doesn't break his wudu. So that means that you take in this meaning you have the takhsis. In the other meaning, no takhsis. So which meaning is better? The meaning in which there is no takhsis. And then based on this, give examples. Like, does it break wudu or not? So then, you don't have to look at this. Can you pray, can you do wudu? Can you touch Quran after touching a woman? You get it? Can you enter the masjid? Can you tayammum? So he's saying here, وَيَتَفَرَّعُ مِنْهُ. Based on this, whether wudu is broken or not, you have ahkam on this. After you touch a woman, you say if you touch your wife, can you perform salah? Can you touch a mushaf? Can you enter the masjid? وَدُخُولِ الْمَسْجِد. Well, what's dukhul al-masjid for? You don't have the wudu to enter the masjid. Sihat al-imama. Can you become imam? Can you do tayammum if you don't have water? So if you don't have water, if during salah you remember you touch somebody, does wuzu break or not? He's got this furu, but you can make a million, like, you have wuzu or not, basically. And by having wuzu or not, there's a million masajid you can do with the farri of. Are you following? If you remembered, if you remember you went to the toilet during salah, what happens? You don't have wuzu. So if you remember to touch somebody, according to Imam Shafi, then your wuzu is broken because you remember you didn't have wuzu. Okay, Imam Hanifa rahmatullah, that doesn't make a difference because that's breaking wuzu. If I remember, I ate an apple, the wudu doesn't break. So it doesn't break according to us. So these are different examples of what will happen. According to us, we have wudu. According to him, we don't have wudu. And the third rule, how to understand the nas, it comes tomorrow, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So now we're moving on to the third way we will need to understand a nas, especially Quranic verses. The rule is, وَمِنْهَا أَنَّ النَّصَّ إِذَا قُرِئَ بِقِرَاءَتَيْنِ. When one text, one verse, one ayah, there's obviously only ayah here, can be read with two qira'ah, meaning the two qira'ah of this ayah. أو رُوِيَ بِرِوَايَتَيْنِ. And the qira'ah discussion will come in Ulum al-Quran, inshallah. So there's two qira'ah or there's two riwayah. And he says riwayatain. He doesn't give an example of two hadith, but he gives an example of two qira'ah. كان الأمل به على وجه يكون أملا بالوجهين أولى. So to interpret the verse in such a way that you can do amal on both qira'ah is better. So one option is say, well, this is asah qira'ah, do amal upon this and ignore the other one. And the other option is we take both qira'ah and we say this qira'ah refers to this situation, this position, this circumstance, and this qira'ah refers to another circumstance. What's the ayah? Ya ayyuhal ladheen. Well, he only says وَأَرْجُ لَكُمْ. The part in the red I added in so you get the whole ayah. It's talking about wudu. So فَإِفَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. To wash your faces and wash your hands up to the elbows. وَامْسَهُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُ لَهْلِكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. There are two qira'ah. وَأَرْجُ لَكُمْ and أَرْجُ لِكُمْ. If you say أَرْجُ لَكُمْ, it becomes ma'tuf on the maghsulat. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, the maghsulan. And if you say وَأَرْجُ لِكُمْ, it becomes atf on the mamsu. وَامْسَهُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُ لِكُمْ. So this one word has two qira'ah. Now when there are two qira'ah, what's the best way to understand this verse? That we take both qira'ah and we say each qira'ah has a different misdaq, a different situation, a different circumstance it's referring to. قُرِئَ بِالنَّسْبِ أَطْفًا عَلَى الْمَغْسُولِ وَبِالْخَفْضِ أَطْفًا عَلَى الْمَمْسُولِ. You're supposed to understand this. Okay. فَحُمِلَتْ قِرَاءَةُ الْخَفْضِ عَلَى حَالَةِ التَّخَفُّفِ. We would say the qira'ah فَامْسَهُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. The أَرْجُلِكُمْ qira'ah is referring to the state of wipe your feet. وَامْسَهُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. And you do masa on your feet, حالة التخفف. When you have khuf, when you have a khuf on, that's when you do masa. That's when you do masa. وقراءة النسب على حالة عدم تخفف. And وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم. The fatha qira'ah is to do with when you don't have khuf. So there's one word, this one ayah is read in two qira'ah. Is بأرجلكم and أرجلكم. So the أرجلكم refers to when there's no khuf, you have to wash it. And أرجلكم is when it's referring when you have khuf. So this way we are able to take both qira'ah and do amal upon both qira'ah by having a different mahmil for each. Does everybody understand this? أچھا. وباعتبار هذا المعنى. وباعتبار هذا المعنى. Based on this we say قال البعض جواز المسح ثبت بالكتاب. Normally in Quduri, and we say that والمسح ثابت بسنة. That masa al-khuffayn thabitun bi-sunnah. That multiple sahaba, tens of sahaba have narrated masa al-khuffayn. So that's why we take this. And some have said then actually masa al-khuffayn is thabit from the kitab on one qira'ah. That's one way of looking at it. Achha. Another example we have here. The example is hatta yathurn, hatta yattahharna. So if you look at this verse, it's talking about they are. What's the full verse? I should have written the full verse. I forgot to write the full verse. The full verse is hatta yathurna, until they not become clean. So in this way, there's two ways of reading it. Yattahharna and yathurna. Both means to become clean, but as you've done in sarf before, ziyaratul lafzi tadullu ala ziyaratul ma'na. If you have more words, then or more letters, more bina. Another way is ziyaratul mabna tadullu ala ziyaratul ma'na. If you have more huruf, more letters, more particles, then that shows an intense meaning. That's why, for example, anna is akadu min an mukhaffafa. So yattahharna, she cleans herself, and yathurna, she becomes clean after her hayd. So when is it permissible for, when does salah become compulsory, when can she have qurban to the zawj? When it's always permissible, we're saying is do yattahharna or yathurna. So yattahharna is tashdid, meaning she has to have a ghusl. So when she have a ghusl, if the blood becomes munqati, the blood of hayd becomes munqati before 10 days. In this situation then, she only performs the salah only becomes binding upon her, it's only permissible to have intercourse after she has ghusl. So the yattahharna is referring to a circumstance. So she has to have ghusl when the blood becomes munqati before 10 days. Why? Because before 10 days, there's a possibility that the blood returns, a possibility that the hayd hasn't come to an end. And the yathurna, we say that qira'ah is meaning she becomes pure. So you can have qurban ila nisa, you can have intercourse, and salah becomes compulsory when she becomes pure without having a ghusl. When is this? When the blood comes to an end at 10 days. because now now we know blood comes to an end, so now it's not going to be return because hayd is finished. Are you following? So the yattaharna sigha is referring to when the blood becomes munqati qabla the maximum hayd, and yathurna is applicable when the blood stops before 10 days, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, whichever days they are. Does everybody understand this? Are you following? So the yattaharna, she has to make herself, she has to clean herself, i.e. having a ghusl if it's become inqita before 10 days. And yathurna is when it comes munqati at 10 days. وكذلك قوله تعالى يتا يطهرن قرئ بالتشديد والتخفيف فيعمل بقراءة التخفيف فيما إذا كان أيامها عشرة. If her ada is 10 days, then we say when she becomes pure. وبقراءة التشديد فيما إذا كان أيامها دون العشرة. So when it's less than 10 days, then you would do amal upon this. وعلى هذا, based on this مسألة, قال أصحابنا إذا انقطع دم الحيض أقل من 10 أيام. Less than 10 days, لم يجوز وطء الحائض. It is not permissible to have intercourse حتى تغتسل, until she has غسل. Why? حتى يطهرن, لأن كمال الطهارة يثبت بالاغتسال. حمزة القطع is wrong there. حتى يثبت بالاغتسال, until the complete طهارة is established via غسل. When she does غسل, that's when it's permissible to have intercourse with her. ولو انقطع دمها لعشرة أيام, if her blood comes to an end, stops flowing at 10 days, جاز وطئها, it is permissible to have intercourse قبل الغسل, لأن مطلق الطهارة ثبت بانقطاع الدم. In this situation, you say حتى يطهرن, until she becomes pure. She becomes pure, the blood has stopped. Now you can have intercourse without the ghusl, before the ghusl. فهمت? Is everybody following? अच्छा, ولهذا قلنا إذا انقطع دم الحيض لعشرة أيام. If on 10 days blood stops, في آخر وقت الصلاة تلزمها فريضة الوقت. Now, if now, let's say for example, her 10 days finishes, this is Zuhr, this is a time start. So Zuhr time, this is Zuhr, this is Asr. Okay? And now her haze finishes right here. Not in much time left. But it's 10 days, this is the 10th day. وَإِن لَمْ يَبْقَ مِنَ الْوَقْتِ مِقْدَارُ مَا يَتَغْتَسِلُ. Not even enough time to do ghusl. Salah becomes compulsory upon her. Why? Because she becomes pure now. However, if it is less than 10 days, it only becomes compulsory if enough time to do ghusl and start your salah. Fahimت? Because حتى يطهرن apply until she becomes pure. That applies in وحل الحائض and also فريضة الصلاة. So if it's 10 days, as long as whenever the bleeding stops at 10 days, then that salah becomes compulsory upon her. She doesn't have to have enough time for the other things. And if it's less than 10 days, then you have to have enough time to can have ghusl and to perform salah. That is basically the tayaqqun that the hayd has come to an end. Are you following? ولو انقطع دمها لأقل من 10 أيام في آخر وقت الصلاة. So then you have a condition. Condition number 1, A, إن بقي من الوقت مقدار ما تغتسل فيه وتحرم للصلاة لزمتها الفريضة. And if there's enough time for her to have a bath, so blood stops for less than 10 days. So enough time to have a bath, and do tahrima. Then you say farida, whether she has to do qadha of the salah, meaning that salah becomes binding upon her. If there's not enough time, then salah is not binding upon her. This is when it's less than 10 days. When it's more than 10 days, she has to, when not more than 10, when it's 10 days, then it becomes compulsory immediately. As amalan bil qira'atayn. Does everybody understand this? Now he is going through a few tamassukat al-da'ifa. He's now mentioning a few places where, again, mainly the book, this Ikhtilaf Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, a few places where there's istidlal, and he's saying the istidlal is da'if. So he's saying, well, how do you understand the nafs? This is one way you don't understand the nafs. So before he mentioned 3 things. One is haqiqatu awla min al-majaz, taking a meaning which does not necessitate takhsis is better. And number 3 is if there are 2 qira'ah, you do amal upon both qira'ah in different ways. Now he's mentioning, I can't remember, 4, 5, 6 examples where he mentions that these are ways people do istidlal, but his istidlal is weak. ثم نذكر, now we're going to mention طرقا, a few ways من التمسكات الضعيفة, weak استدلال, ليكون ذلك تنبيها على موضع الخلل في هذا النوع. So this can be a warning or indication or some kind of like clarification at shortcomings. Khalal means a hole. So shortcomings in this type of istidlal. So in the new tamassuk, understanding the murad of the nas, there's a few weak examples. You can use this to understand, look, this is not how you do istidlal. Now, the next few examples are based upon this principle according to Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi. And we say, no, it's not. So Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatan wasi'ah, he says, التنصيص على الشيء يدل على نفي ما أداه. If you explicitly mention something, that means that the thing not mentioned is not in the hukam. It's what we call kind of mafhum al-mukhalif. That if you don't mention something, if for example say five things are haram, that means that apart from this, nothing else is haram. Yes, as if for example, there are 3 rights upon you, 3 responsibilities, that means that's only 3. So if you mention something, that means adahu, whatever apart from this, is not compulsory. So based on this, he's going against this principle of Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi. And he's saying, look, this, and so obviously the next first few of them is based on this principle of Imam Shafi, which we don't agree with. Example number 1. What's the tamassuk? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, bima ruwiya, anin Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, annahu qa'a falam yatawadda. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qa'a, he then he vomited. Falam yatawadda, he didn't do wudu. So we say, so this is a tamassuk, holding fast to this, to prove this, is da'if. So, a tamassuk, holding fast to this hadith, to prove this mas'ala, is da'if. What? To prove what? لِإِثْبَاتِ أَنَّ الْقَيْءَ غَيْرُ نَاقِص. To prove that vomiting does not break wudu, is da'if. So the Prophet ﷺ has narrated, Prophet ﷺ vomited, and he did not do wudu. So this proves that vomiting does not break wudu. We say لأن الأثر, this أثر is not also hadith, أن الحديث, this hadith shows أن القيء لا يوجب الوضوء في الحال ولا خلاف فيه. This hadith shows that vomiting does not, the Prophet vomited, did not do wudu immediately. So this shows that you don't have to do wudu immediately. And that's what we agree with. If you vomit, you don't have to do wudu immediately. So the Prophet vomited, not do wudu immediately. Did do wudu after that? There's no mention of this. We don't know. The hadith doesn't mention this. وَإِنَّمَا الْخِلَافُ فِي كَوْنِهِ نَاقِضًا. So Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, they probably have other dalail as well, but this is one, to use this hadith is not possible to rule that masala according to us, according to our principles. Because all this does is tell us that Prophet vomited and did not do wudu immediately. They do wudu again before salah. There's no mention that, qa'a falam yatawadda fasalla walam yatawadda. Like clearly, it doesn't mention that. It just says simply that, that's it. Are you following? Does it make sense? Acha. وَكَذَلِكَ التَّمَسُّكُ. Similarly, second example. Holding fast to this verse, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. This was a bit more detail. The verse is حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the maytah haram upon you, meaning to consume maytah. Let me explain this here. We have haram. When something is haram, it's either usually haram because of 2 things. Meaning to consume something is haram. Why? It's either najis or karama. Can you eat a human being? No. But is a human being impure? No. Why can't you eat human beings? Cannibalism? Because a human being, his body is sacred. It's supposed to be sacred. We're going through a period of time where people don't even have Ya Allah ilallah al-mushtaka. So najis, so it's either impure, like a pig, a dog, lions, tigers, these vultures, all of these animals are impure because they're najis. And sometimes something is impure because of karama. That you don't consume it because it's noble. Like it's out of the honor, you don't consume this. Okay? Now, we say, suqutun najasa tunajjisul ma. If najasa falls in the water, it causes the water to become impure. Correct? So this is how Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi is saying. So therefore, yes, this is the flow of Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, his thought. What's he saying here? That everything is haram is either haram because of one of 2 things. Because of najasa, because of karama. If it's not najasa, if it's not haram to consume because of karama, that means it's najasa. Only 2 options. And therefore, if that najasa falls in, if that haram item falls into water, it will make it impure if it's not because of karama. Are you following? So if anything is not has karama, it's not like worthy of respect, and that's why it's impure, haram to consume, that means it's impure, and therefore if it falls in water, it becomes impure. So therefore, you have pig meat that falls in the water. It's speaking halal, haram, haram. Why is it haram? Najasa, karama, najasa. Therefore, if that falls in the water, it becomes impure. Blood. Why is blood permissible to consume? Karama, najasa, najasa. Blood falls in water, it becomes impure. Do you understand Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi's flow of thought? How is it explained by Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi? Not Imam Shafi, Imam as-Shashi. Yes? We say, no, we don't agree with this. This is a false dichotomy. We don't agree that all hurma comes about because of najasa, karama. You have haram items which are haram to consume, even though they're not najis, even though they're not mukarram. For example, teen. Do you agree that it is impermissible to consume soil, cement, sand? It's not permissible to consume these things. Are they impure? Nope. So your dichotomy of najis and karama, either or, we don't agree with this. Are you following? So, teen, you agree that soil is haram to consume. You agree clay is haram to consume. You agree cement is haram to consume, etc., etc. Yet, it's still pure. So therefore, you can have something that's haram to consume, but it's still pure. Do you understand? Yes? And we say the illah, the reason why something becomes najis is not because of it being haram. So Imam Shafi rahmatullah said it becomes haram because of najas, it's haram to eat because of najasa. And therefore it becomes, we say no, the munajjis, the thing that it causes impurity is not become impure because it is haram. It becomes impure because it mixes with something impure. So we say, for example, meat of haram animals is because of ikhtilatud dam. The meat is mixed with blood. And blood is impure, the blood penetrates the meat, so therefore that meat becomes haram and munajjis. Are you following? So the haram meat that we have, the haram animals that we have, they're not impure bidhati, they're impure because of ikhtilatud dam. The blood of those animals is haram and the blood then mixes with the blood. So therefore, based on that muqaddimah, to hold fast, to use this verse, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ, to say that إثبات فساد الماء بموت الذباب. What's Imam Shafi rahmatullah's argument going to be? Can you eat flies? Yes or no? No, you can't eat flies. Why is flies haram? Because of karama and najasa. It's not karama, so therefore what does it have to be? It has to be najasa. If a fly falls in water, the water becomes what? Impure, because najasa fell in the water. Do you understand the argument Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi? And our argument is, just because it is, you have hurmatul akl, does not necessitate najasa. We look at it, what's the illah of the tanjis? What makes it munajjis? It becomes munajjis if it's ikhtilatud dam, if blood mixes with the animal. We say this is istidlal da'if. Why? لأن النص يثبت حرمة الميت ولا خلاف فيه. This text is only talking about what? Consumption. Yes? وإنما الخلاف في فساد الماء. The ikhtilaf that we have reviews regarding if this fly falls in the water and dies in the water, does that water become impure or not? We say no, it doesn't become impure. Yes? Why not? Because it's possible that the maita, the fly, does not have blood, and the blood does not have meat. So therefore, the dead. So even though it's najah, is haram to consume, it's not najis. So therefore, if it falls in water, the water does not become impure. Do you understand that argument? Moving on to example number 3, another weak istidlal. وكذلك التمسك بقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم هتيه ثم قرسيه ثم اغسليه بالماء لإثبات أن الخل لا يزيل النجس نجس ضعيف. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he had some semen, some sperm, some money on his clothing. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم instructed one of his wives that هتيه, scratch it. It was dry semen, it wasn't wet semen, it was dry, it became dried up. He said, huttihi, scratch it off. Thumma qurusihi, so huttihi, flick it off, remove it. Uqrasihi, similar meaning, get rid of it. Yes? Thumma ghsilihi bilma, then wash it. So now what's happened? Imam Shafi rahmatullah, his evidence is what? At-tansisu ala shay'i yadullu ala nafi al-hukm amma adahu, or command called. Yes, that's something like this. So the Prophet ﷺ said you have to wash it with water. So therefore, if you use any other substance, it's not going to do, because the Prophet ﷺ explicitly mentioned bilma. So now what he's saying, Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, he uses this verse and not this hadith And in this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has explicitly mentioned al-ma. So therefore, it is necessary to wash with water. So therefore, if a person washes any impurity with khal, with vinegar or any other ma'i. Khal is basically an example of a ma'i. Any other liquid that is not water, will it purify? We say yes. This hadith doesn't have anything to do with that. This is saying wash it with water. It doesn't say you can't wash it with anything other than water. So to use this hadith to prove that you have to wash it with water and not vinegar is ضعيف لأن الخبر يقتضي وجوب غسل الدم بالماء. Is either I could be wrong here. Probably not referring to sperm. Like referring to blood. When one of the wives had some blood of haze on her clothing, the Prophet ﷺ told her to wipe the blood of haze off and then wash it and then perform salah in it. So we're saying here the khabar is necessitating washing blood with water. فَيَتَقَيَّدُ بِحَالِ وُجُودِ الدَّمْ عَلَى الْمَحَلِ. This will be only when there is blood on the mahal, on the cloth. وَلَا خِلَافَ فِيهِ وَإِنَّمَا الْخِلَافُ فِي طَهَارَةِ الْمَحَلِ بَعْدَ زَوَالِ الدَّمِ بِالْخَلِ. So this hadith is saying that look, if there is blood on it, what do? You use water to remove it. So the Prophet ﷺ is doing ithbat of that. As far as khal is concerned, the Prophet is not doing nafi of this. The khilaf that we have with you is not saying that if we have blood on it and you put it on, is it going to remove or not? Is it going to make it pure or not? We're saying here, in the khilaf is in taharatul mahal. Does the mahal become pure if you remove the aynun najasa with any other ma'i, like khal? Does it become pure or not? So the hadith doing ithba of ma does not necessitate nafi of tahara, not tahara, of like tanzif using ghayr al-ma. We'll continue from here tomorrow, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So now we're going through the fourth example where we have a weak istidlal according to the Ahnaf. وكذلك التمسك بقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم في 40 شاة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said in a hadith, for every 40 sheep there is one sheep. So if you own 40 sheep, then you have to give one sheep in zakah. So to use this hadith, لإثبات عدم جواز دفع القيمة ضعيف. To prove or try to establish that giving the price of one shot. What does the hadith say? For every 40 sheep you have to give one sheep. Not money. It doesn't say anything about money. You have to give one sheep. And remember we mentioned the principle before is التنسيس على الشيء يدل على نفي ما أداه or whatever his usool is, something to that. So because the Prophet said one sheep, it has to be one sheep sallallahu alayhi wasallam and not price. So to use this istilal for that we say is da'if. Why? لأنه يقتضي وجوب الشاة ولا خلاف فيه. This hadith proves to us, and says to us that when you have 40 sheep, you have to give one sheep. It is ithbat of the 40. Sorry, it is ithbat of 1 in 40. وإنما الخلاف في سقوط الواجب بأداء القيمة. This hadith is not telling us anything about does it have to be a sheep only or it can be the qima of the sheep. It says one sheep. Do you understand? So this is also a weak istidlal. Yes, because وكذلك التمسك بقوله تعالى وأتم الحج والعمرة لله. What does the Quran verse say? And complete the hajj and umrah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to use this hadith, use this Quran verse to prove that umrah is wajib ibtida'an is da'if. What does the Quranic verse say? That's supposed to be Quranic brackets. That complete hajj and umrah for whose sake? Huh? Allah said, what's atamma mean? Complete. After something has started, then you complete it. Now to say that umrah is wajib based on this verse in your lifetime, we say yes. What's completion? What's necessary? If you start umrah and you break it or you come musta, what do you have to do? You have to complete it. But to use this verse to prove that umrah is wajib ibtida'an, this is da'if. لأن النص يقتضي وجوب الإتمام. The Nass is telling us to complete it. The Nass is not telling us anything about what is initially wajib or not. وذلك أي إتمام. Itmam only occurs what? After shuru. ولا خلاف فيه. So can we say this is the weak istidlal. وإنما الخلاف في وجوبها ابتداء. Is it wajib on the onset or not? right now in your life, is one umrah wajib upon you or not? This verse does not tackle that issue. Example number 6 of a week istidlan. وَكَذَلِكَ التَّمَسُّكُ. Similarly, holding fast or using the verse لا تبيع الدرهم بالدرهمين ولا الساع بالساعين. Do not sell 2 dirhams in exchange for 1 dirham in exchange for 2 dirhams, and 1 sa' in exchange for 2 sa'. Yes? So this hadith is telling us we can't riba basically. Yes, 1 and 2 and sa'. To use this hadith, this is about riba, isn't it? To use this hadith that al-bay' al-fasid la yufidu al-milk da'if. Like, where does it say that if you do this, it's haram? And our principles are already mentioned before. النهي نفعل الشرعية يقتضي مشروعيتها. So to use this hadith to prove that bay' al-fasid does not give milk da'if. لأن النص, because the text is this telling us that tahrim al-bay' is saying that bay' al-fasid, one bay' al-fasid when it has riba, that's haram. It isn't telling us about thubut al-milk wa adamihi. Is everybody following me so far? Example number 7. وكذلك التمسك بقول صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا. Listen carefully. لا تصوموا في هذه الأيام فإنها أيام أكل وشرب وبعال. Do not eat and drink during the days of Eid. Do not fast during the days of Eid. Yes, because the days of eating and drinking and yes. Now to use this لإثبات أن النذر بصوم يوم النحر لا يصح ضعيف. This hadith is not telling us anything about صوم يوم النحر, and it's not telling us anything about the nadhr on this day. So if you do the nadhr, what happens? The nadhr is sahih, you have to do qada another day. But the hadith is not telling us about nadhr. You follow? And this is basically linked to the af'al al-sharia came before as well. لأن النص يقتضي حرمة الفعل. The nas is telling us what? It's haram to have a fast. If you fast, is it counted or not? ولا خلاف في كونه حرام. إنما الخلاف في وجوبه في صحته. أجل. Is this the next text? فإن الأب. Yes, فإن الأب. And he's given an example. Now he's going on to prove an example that you can have a fi'lun haram, but the fi'lun haram still causes the atharat and the thamarat to become murattab upon this. Example. فإن الأب. Yeah, what's missing? Yeah, that's what the I thought something was missing here. What's something? What's it? وحرمة الفعل لا تنافي ترتب الأحكام. That's the masla that's been discussed in the next thing. And we've mentioned this before, that because something is haram, it does not mean that the ahkam do not become murattab upon this. Yes? It doesn't mean that what happens that there's no thamara of this fi'l. The lead of this, إن الأب لو استولد جارية ابنه. If father was to take his son's concubine and make that his son's concubine and does what with it? The child from it. ويثبت به الملك للأب. If he استولد, he gets a child from this. Yes? What will happen? We would say here that this is a haram fi'l, because it's the son's concubine, not permissible to do this. But وَيَثْبُتُهَا الْمِلْكِ لِلْأَبْ. But the milk will be thabit for the father. Yes? So again, you give examples of actions which are haram, but if you do something, if you carry out this haram action, what happens? The thamarat are in place. We're not saying that it's permissible. Another example. لَوْ ذَبَحَ شَاة. You slaughter an animal. What kind of knife do you have? سكين مغصوبة. The knife that you slaughter an animal with is stolen. يكون حراما. You're using the haram. It's haram to use this. But ويحل المذبوح. ولو غسل الثوب النجس بماء مغصوب. You have impure water. What do? You have impure clothing. You steal water and you wash your clothing. Haram. يكون حراما. The fact is haram. But the clothes become what? Pure. So we're saying here, حرمة الفعل لا تنافي ترتب الأحكام. Another example. ولو وطئ امرأة في هذه الحيض. You're not allowed to have intercourse during hayd. If you have intercourse during hayd, يكون حراما. However, يثبت به إحسان الواتئ ويثبت الحل لزوج أول. This already came before, to some extent before. You following? So he's given 8 examples of, so beginning he went through, I think, through 3 rules, how to analyze nas, and he went through 7 examples of weak istidlalat. Understood? So off the camera. Subhanallah wa bihamdi subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.